Hi everyone, this is HUMRI from HUMRI and Friends, and I am pretty excited to be here today. And God knows this is probably my 117th time of recording this audio, and for some reason, I always get nervous. But we're gonna do this, we're gonna record this, we can do this, and this is also my first YouTube video, so bear with me. It is super unprofessional. I used my phone and a broken tripod to shoot the video, but no more excuses. Let me introduce myself. I am Humara from HUMRI and Friends, which is a very small Instagram profile where I do make comics, but I also make handmade books and handmade papers. And over the time, I have uploaded little videos of how I make my handmade papers, and some of you guys have been interested in the process. So I thought I would show you guys a video from starting to the end how I make my handmade papers. Now, I have let's get right into the video. You can already see that I'm tearing paper apart and putting it in my blender. You do need a blender for that. This blender I got from a resale shop for $5. You want a second-hand blender, that's fine. You don't have to go and buy a new blender. Now, if you want to use a shredder, that's good for you. I mean, it saves a lot of time. The only reason, I do have two reasons why I don't use a shredder. One, because I don't own one. Second, is because the whole purpose for me to use or make recycled paper is to kind of transfer or transform the existing material that would otherwise ended up being trash to something new. So I like to transform the energy, and in the process I like to use less and less energy or less and less new energy that I can. So that would make the shredder a new energy. So in the end, you'll also see that I don't use a dryer. I use the sun's energy to dry the paper, and that is also very intentional. So this blender is a little small for the container that I have, as you can see, and that works fine for me only because I know that I have to try multiple times and blend a multiple times even before I can make a batch of papers. But the blender, whenever it gets stuck, I can just shake it and it's pretty handy. It's very fast, so no problem with that. Now, the reason I use a very big container is because I like to make multiple batches of paper at a time. You don't have to have as big of a container like I did over here. So this is what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I am pouring the pulps I just blended, and I am going to blend more as I go until I am satisfied with the consistency. Now, how you will get the consistency or understand the consistency, you will always want to have more water. And when you don't see any water underneath, when you see all paper pulps floating around the surface, that's a good consistency. You should be satisfied with that. That's like a ready-made consistency for you to go ahead and start making your paper. Now, I heard that similar. I don't even remember. So you want to insert, as you can see in the video, your frames as vertically or almost like tilted as possible, and you want to bring it up as horizontally as possible. Now, so you can make a paper making frame by yourself. You just need two photo frame of the same size, and you need one window screen of the same size. Now, if you want me to show you how to make a handmade frame by yourself, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll love to do that for you. Now, over here I used Arnold's Grammar large economy dip hand mold. Now I am using over here a chopping board, but anything that has a flat surface will do. Just remember your paper is going to be wet, so if you're using wood, make sure that you don't use that wood for something else, but for the paper making purpose only. Now I put a sheet of cotton fabric on top of the chopping board to suck the existing water out, and then I would just flip the board on top of it and take the board out, the backboard out, and now I'm using a cotton fabric to kind of press mildly to get the excess water out of it, and then that will make the window screen to get a little detached from the paper pulp, and the paper pulp will get attached to the cotton fabric, and you can just pop the window screen out. And I like to put another cotton fabric on top of it just to secure it, and then you just can keep going and start sandwiching your papers on top of another. So over here, for an example, I'm using chopping board, cotton fabric, your paper, then cotton fabric, your paper, and cotton fabric and your paper. You can keep doing this for as long as you want. I mean, for a long time. And that's what I do, because I don't have a lot of flat surface, so I would like to sandwich one paper on top of another. As long as you have a cotton fabric or something that is in between both of the wet paper sheet, you should be fine. Now, talking about when I was pressing with the cotton fabric, I wanted to mention one thing, that some people do use sponges to get the excess water out from the wet paper. I use cotton fabric because it works for me. For some reason, I never was comfortable with sponges. That's too messy and too watery, where this big sheet of cotton fabric just works for me. It absorbs way more water from the paper, and it's not as messy as a sponge, at least for me. So I prefer cotton fabric than sponge, but you can use sponge as well. So kind of follow the video and you'll get a hang of it. It can go messy sometimes. For an example, you're trying to take the screen off from the wet paper, and sometimes the paper can partly the paper can come off with your screen, and that's totally fine. Though remember, those are still paper pulp, those are still wet paper, and all you have to do is just grab them again, put them in the water, shake it a little bit, blend it with the water, and you can make papers again, just like over here. And sometimes I tap the paper screen as shown in the video. I don't know why I do it. I feel like if I do it, it touches the paper from the screen, but you don't have to do it. Alright, so as a bonus, I'm going to make black paper over here. Actually, I thought it would be cool to make that black paper. I've been, you might also seen the white fabric that I'm using, or the frame that I'm using, that are more stained and it looks dirty. It's actually from expired coffee infusion. I previously made papers with expired coffee, and that kind of stained my fabric and my paper frames. So those are not dirty, those are just coffee stains. So I thought I would make black papers as well, because I'm interested in, dyed paper. And I got some powder fabric color, and I just poured it in the water and just, stir it up. It's just the same process with color. You go, as you can see in the videos, you go with your paper frame as vertically as possible, and when you come out, you want to be as horizontal as possible. You tap it, tilt it to rinse off your water. You want less water in it. You want to get rid of the excessive water. That's a crucial part. And then you take your cardboard, or you take your hardboard, or any kind of board, and then you put a fabric on top of it, and then you take the wooden frame out, and then you just flip it gently. Don't do it too fast, but you don't have to do it too slow either. You just flip your frame on top of it, and then take the back frame out and press your fabric or sponge as much as you can to get rid of the water. It also helps the screen kind of get detached from the wet paper, and also the fabric to get attached to the wet paper. So I do press them a lot. I do press the fabric with the screen to make sure the excessive water gets out. And then you can stack one paper on top of another, as long as there's cotton fabric or any kind of fabric. You can even use old t-shirt for it. As long as there's something, a kind of fabric in between of both of the paper sheets, you should be just fine. Now, one last thing before I go, I wanted to mention is that it's pretty important, whether you sandwich it or whether you're making just one sheet of paper, it's pretty important to secure it with another fabric on top. And then what I like to do is, on top of the fabric that I have already secured the paper with, I like to put another cutting or chopping board, and then I would like to put a heavy book, sometimes multiple heavy books on top of it. Remember, pressure is very important, otherwise your paper would dry eventually, but it might dry crooked, or bend it, or wind can affect your paper that you can never imagine. So that's one small tip. You can use hair dryer to dry your papers off, but as I said previously, I don't like to use new energy, so I just put it in a good spot where the sun shows up, sometimes in my balcony, sometimes in a corner of my room where the sun is hitting the spot, and I would wait for them to dry out. It's also very exciting for me to wait for the paper to dry out, and then probably after a couple days, because I live in Michigan, when it really dries out, it's such a joy to watch it. So I will post on my Instagram how the paper came out, but if you want me to make any other video, or if you already know what kind of work I do and you have a question, just reach me out. And thanks for being here with me. I hope this video helped you in any ways, but thank you. Be safe, be cool. Bye.